Can they just sleep on the floor since they're dirty? My son's wife, Linda, said this with an ugly laugh. Beside her, my son Michael also had a disdainful smile. You two can sit on top of some cardboard. Then, she pointed to a piece of cardboard carelessly placed nearby, as if she was dealing with something filthy. I felt a deep revulsion for them both, no matter that they were my own children. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. Estrangement. That word flashed through my mind. Shall we go home? My husband James said, turning around, as if he had read my thoughts. Yes. I don't want to stay here any longer. I replied immediately to his words, eager to get away from these two as soon as possible. It seems we're not welcome, so we'll be leaving. And we'll be estranging ourselves from Michael and the others. That's totally fine with me. And with that, we left without even entering their house, without seeing our grandchildren's faces. A few hours later, while having coffee with James, we enjoyed a peaceful moment. Then, Michael called James's mobile phone. James glanced at Michael's name and chose to ignore the call. Watching this, I smiled, thinking Michael must be facing a hard time now. I am Mary, a 51-year-old working mother with a part-time job. I have a husband, James, and 2 sons. James and I met through our parents' introduction. I was drawn to James, who was kind and serious, and he liked my gentle nature, so we started dating immediately. A few years later, we got married. Soon after, we were pregnant with our first child, Michael. You've done well, Mary. Thank you so much, he said to me with tears in his eyes. Not only him but also my in-laws praised me, delighted that their first grandchild was a boy, saying, You did well. 2 years later, we had our second child, Daniel. Both boys, they kept us busy with their energetic antics. I got a perfect on the test again. Wow, that's amazing, Michael. You've worked hard on your studies, good job. As he grew, he became a child recognized by everyone as exceptional. He studied diligently and had excellent athletic abilities. Meanwhile, Daniel was. I heard you helped a kid who was being bullied. You're such a kind soul, Daniel. Thanks, Mom. I just had to help them, no matter what. He grew up to be a kind-hearted person, always ready to lend a hand to those in trouble and gentle towards animals. While cherishing their different personalities, we frequently discussed as a family and continued to watch over the paths the two of them would take. Both left home at the time of going to college. Being alone at home feels so unsettling. Maybe I should start a part-time job. That sounds good. It's worth trying something new. Afterward, freed from child-rearing, I consulted with James and decided to start a part-time job. I began working at a nearby supermarket, which seemed to suit me. The work environment was pleasant, and I enjoyed my job. It's great you found something you enjoy, James said that, looking at me happily. Moreover, he started to take on more household chores, saying, We're a dual-income couple now. He had always tried to help out by doing what he could, seeing me run ragged by our sons. So, I told him, but James just smiled warmly. You've done more than enough already. You don't have to go to such lengths. I love you, Mary, and I want to be useful. Without any embarrassment, he expressed his feelings. I am grateful to have him and our family as we live our peaceful, everyday life. One day, I'm coming over to the house. Michael sent such a message out of the blue. Surprised by the suddenness, both James and I, being off work and at home. Therefore, we sent Michael our consent and decided to wait. It's unusual for him to reach out like this. Indeed. He didn't even show his face when Daniel was getting married. After leaving home, Michael rarely returned or even contacted us. At most, we informed him last year that Daniel was getting married, to which he just replied, "Understood," and didn't attend the wedding. Can't get in touch with Michael. Haven't you heard anything? No. I've only received understood message from him as well. Both James and I, and even Daniel himself, couldn't get a reply about attending the wedding from Michael, despite numerous attempts. After many attempts by Daniel, he said he's too busy with work to attend. To miss his own brother's wedding? He said, "I won't waste my time for a useless brother." Such a disrespectful message was sent. Seeing that, both James and I sighed deeply. Michael had always looked down on Daniel. Michael, excellent in academics and sports. Michael is truly amazing. Michael is our pride. Such was the adoration he received from his grandparents. Watching him play outside. Such a boyish spirit is good to see. Our grandson is just as expected. They often expressed such views. On the other hand, Daniel, who enjoyed reading and quietly spent time in his room. With such nice weather, to stay in the corner of a room. Such a gloomy child. Frowning, the in-laws said that. I couldn't believe their words and always argued back. If you say such things, I won't let you see your grandchildren. James was clear about it, and upon hearing that, the in-laws who wanted to see Michael quickly apologized. Michael was also fond of them, saying, "I want to see Grandpa and Grandma." So we reluctantly let them meet. Daniel, on the other hand, was close to my parents. I love being in Grandpa's study and talking with them. My dad is also a reader, with lots of books in his study, and Daniel would scrutinize which book to read with sparkling eyes every time we visited. And he would happily share his thoughts with him. That's why Daniel preferred going to my parents' house over the in-laws. Are we going to Grandpa's house next time? Wonder which book I'll read. But I want to go to other grandparents' house. Last time we went to my parents' house because Michael insisted on it. This time, we're going to Mary's parents' house. Both of our parents' homes were within cycling distance, and we tried to visit them equally. Oh, did you go to grandparents' place? Yeah. I went to return a book. Michael seems to be at Grandpa's house too. As they grew up, both started to go on their own. Surely, the in-laws were spoiling Michael and bad-mouthing Daniel. Even if we tried to blame them, there was no proof. Did you go to your father's place again? No. I was at a friend's house near there. Michael also denied it, saying, I didn't go. I haven't seen the in-laws. However, he was undoubtedly influenced by the in-laws, and developed a disdainful attitude towards Daniel. Every time he said something oppressive about Daniel, we scolded him, but it seemed futile. What's wrong? Remembering the past, I inadvertently sighed. James asked with concern. It's nothing. Just wondering what he wants. Hopefully, it's not trouble. He nodded at my words. And 4 hours after the scheduled time. He's here. You're quite late. You were probably just lazing around anyway. Unabashed, Michael entered the house. Following him was a woman. While we were puzzled by the sudden visit, the two quickly sat down on the living room sofa. Michael, who is this? My wife, Linda. We got married. The words uttered by Michael shocked us so much that we exclaimed loudly. Not we're getting married, but we got married as it was announced after the fact. Normally, you'd come before getting married. We were in a hurry. Apparently, Linda is pregnant. Now that they mention it, Linda's belly does seem large. So, she wasn't suffering from morning sickness, and we decided to have the wedding before it became noticeable. I understand the situation, but why didn't you tell us? And we weren't invited to the wedding. At our question, Michael sneered unpleasantly. We didn't want to invite such shabby people to our glamorous ceremony. We were stunned by his words. What did Michael just say? Shabby? Us? Exactly as Michael said, truly shabby indeed. Linda said, laughing mockingly as if to ridicule us. Feeling sickened by such behavior. Linda comes from a wealthy family. Her father is a CEO, and I work at his company. Her mother is from a noble family too, so they're in a different class than us. Michael said mockingly. I wonder why he looks down on his own upbringing so much. Then, what do you want by coming here? James asked with a cold voice. He must be angry at being ridiculed by them. I told you, Linda is pregnant. Unlike Daniel's wife who can't have children. Daniel's wife, Susan, has been his childhood friend who lived nearby. They started dating in high school and got married right after graduating from college. Susan apparently has a condition that makes it difficult for her to get pregnant. I'm fine with that. Susan is the only one for me. And having Daniel is more than enough for me. They had discussed this matter several times. It's Daniel and Susan's issue. As long as the two of them are right, we're not particularly bothered. Yet, bringing this up all of a sudden made me frown. Unlike the worthless Daniel's wife, Linda will give you grandchildren. You should at least show some gratitude, right? Speak clearly. What do you want? A baby gift? It's not just that. Visiting the house and helping out is the role of a mother-in-law, isn't it? Michael said, with Linda joining him in a nasty grin. They're indirectly telling me to come over and do household chores. Then, James silently stood up. It would be an honor to be of use to you. Once James was out of sight, Linda started saying that. Right. Since you'll get to hold your grandchild, it's only natural you do as much. Linda and Michael agreed, leaving me puzzled. If it were Susan, I'd gladly help. But I don't want to assist people who look down on others. Just as I was about to say something, James returned with an envelope in hand. Take this and leave. My wife has a part-time job and doesn't have the time to care for you. Besides, if your family is so prestigious, hire a professional housekeeper. James said this while glaring at them. Michael seemed upset by these words, but took the envelope without saying anything. What a waste of time. Muttering, Michael and Linda left. Watching them go, I sighed deeply, pondering the future. I thought I was careful, but did I raise him wrong? As I felt uneasy about Michael and Linda's attitude, a notification sound came from my mobile phone. It was a message from Susan. We're planning a trip with Daniel. Would you like to join us? A lovely invitation message with cute stickers. Feeling healed by it, I replied, Thank you for the invitation. Would you like to come over for dinner? They were delighted by the invite, so we decided to have Daniel and Susan over for dinner. Thank you for inviting us today. I love Mary's cooking, so I'm really happy. We welcomed them at the agreed time and had a lively dinner, during which we talked about Michael and Linda. That wife, could she possibly be? Susan muttered, having heard our story. Apparently, Susan works at the same company as Linda's father. So, she knew of Linda's existence, though in a different department. According to Susan, Linda is infamously known for the bad reasons. I did hear she was going on maternity leave, Susan mentioned. Daniel seemed thoughtful beside her. Thanks for letting me know. They might contact me next. It's good to be prepared. Indeed, if Michael couldn't make me a housekeeper, he might next tell Daniel. Send Susan over as a housekeeper. If Susan gets outed as an employee at the same company, they might say, "Do it if you don't want to be fired." So, Daniel, make sure you protect her. Daniel nodded firmly at his words. Several months later, I receive another message from Michael on my mobile phone. Our child has been born. So, we're having a baby gift event at our new home. We're inviting you too as a courtesy. Such a condescending message was sent. Honestly, I don't feel like going. But he is my son, after all. Well, I guess we'll attend, but only out of obligation. Right. We'll decide our future relationship based on their attitude at the baby gift event. We agreed to participate in the baby gift and visited their new home using the address provided. Welcome. Ah, so you did came. It sounds like you're surprised we actually showed up. Greeted by Linda and Michael at the door. James responded to their greeting, which was met with an insincere smile and, "Not at all. Well, come in." But upon entering, there's no sight of our grandchild. Asking them about it, we're told the child is out with Linda's parents. Please wait in the living room until the parents return. However, as we were about to sit down, Linda stopped us. Wait! That's my parents' seat. Then where should we sit? Linda pointed to the floor in response to my question. Do you mind sitting on the floor since you're so dirty? She said this with a disgusting laugh, with Michael also smirking unpleasantly beside her. You two can sit on cardboard, pointing to a carelessly placed piece of cardboard nearby, as if we were something dirty. Such behavior deeply disgusted me. As much as he is my own child, I can no longer tolerate it. Disownment. That word crossed my mind. Should we leave? James, sensing my thoughts, turned to me and suggested, Yes. I don't want to stay here any longer. I immediately agreed with his words, because I wanted to get away from these two as soon as possible. Since we're obviously not welcome, we'll leave. And we'll be disowning both of you. That's totally fine with me. And so, we left without even entering their house, without seeing our grandchild's face. Once home, I blocked Michael's contact. Immediately, I called Daniel and told him about what had happened. Daniel and his family were also invited to the same baby gift event. I thought I'd warn them before they arrived at the new home. Got it. Thanks for letting me know. He responded coldly and hung up. Daniel resembles me in appearance, but his demeanor is all James. Normally calm, he treasures Susan deeply. But once he gets angry, he's uncontrollable. Michael had once angered Daniel and suffered terribly because of it. Forgetting that, he's probably getting ahead of himself. Let's have some coffee, shall we? Sure, I'd like that. Several hours later, James and I spent a leisurely time drinking coffee. Then, Michael calls James's mobile phone. James looks at Michael's name briefly before deciding to ignore it. Watching him, I can't help but think Michael is probably facing a tough time right now, and I smiled at the thought. Hey, where are we going for our next trip? Let's go somewhere famous this time. James responds with a smile to my question. And time flows by leisurely. Then, I get a message from Susan. What's up? It's from Susan. She's asking if she can come over now. Is that okay? Of course, let her. After giving our consent, Daniel and Susan arrive a few minutes later, both grinning broadly. You two seem very cheerful. Looks like you've had quite the rampage. Yes. Oh, I recorded it, so you must watch. Responding to our words, Susan shows us the video on her mobile phone with a smile. The recording starts with Daniel ringing the doorbell. "The door's unlocked, just come in." Hearing that, Daniel and Susan enter the house. Reaching the living room. "Wait, aren't you the famous novelist?" A man and woman, presumably Linda and her parents, looked at Daniel's face in surprise. Daniel, a book lover, had become a novelist. His work won a Newcomers Award, and there were talks of media adaptations. He had appeared on TV due to this. The other family must have recognized him from TV. Seeing such a person suddenly show up seemed to shock them. What? Daniel is the novelist everyone's talking about? Not only Linda and her parents were surprised, but Michael, his brother, was too.